Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining. I am super excited about this webinar. We have three different perspectives, and I'll share with you a little background. So, in January, I had the honor to join our team at the airport to welcome three of Sinai's nurses. And I have to say, there's something really special about watching nurses and their families arrive for the first time. And if you've been to Baltimore in January, it's even more exciting to take them outside and see the snow and the cold and all of that. But then I was also with them for their first day, first time they went to Sinai Hospital. And the welcome there was pretty spectacular. So Sinai has their different leaders and managers welcome these nurses with a sign. But I just loved the time that they took to say hello. How was the journey? You are welcome here. And so Amanda and I talked, and gosh, to be able to capture what integration looks like for international nurses and why that is so important is exactly why we're here today to talk through how are thoughtful leaders looking at international integration into their teams. And so I'm going to have them introduce themselves. I have Amanda here, and I'll have you start. And if she looks super familiar, it's because she's on the Becker's CNOs to know for 2025. So super excited to have you here,
Thank
Amanda. Go
you.
ahead and introduce.
Yeah, thanks, Cara. I really appreciate you welcoming me and my team today. We're very happy to be here and talk all things international nurses. I am Amanda Shrout. I am the Chief Nursing Officer at Sinai Hospital and Grace Medical Center in Baltimore, Maryland.
Thank you, Amanda. And Megan, to have a manager here to say, okay, that's what it looks like big picture, but here's what it looks like on my unit is really important. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, great. So my name is Megan Schwartz. I've been with Sinai Hospital for the last 15 years. For the last 6 years, I've been the nurse manager of B6, which is a medical surgical unit here at Sinai. We specialize in oncology and also gynec surgical cases.
Great. Thank you, Megan. And Grace is a nurse who arrived almost 3 years ago. And Grace, I'm so thrilled to have you here to share your perspective and your experience. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Miss Cara, for having me here. It's my pleasure. It's my honor. So my name is Grace Valle. I'm one of the international nurses from PRS Global, of course, and I'm practicing here in Sinai Hospital of Baltimore for almost 3 years. This coming August.
Yeah, that's great. Well, welcome all of you. So, Amanda, maybe we can just start big picture, and I'd love to hear from you on how does Sinai, how does LifeBridge look at international from a big picture?
Yeah.
So let's start there.
Yeah, so international nurse recruitment is part of our strategy. We have a long history of recruiting international nurses to be part of our organization. And really, it's embedded in our fabric of being a place where we value diversity. And over the last 3 years, we have partnered and really brought in many nurses from lots of different countries, maybe a little bit longer than 3 years, this most recent stint. But I've been in this role for about a year and a half now, and we continue to project out how many international nurses we're going to bring in the coming years. So we have a very robust recruitment strategy. Obviously, retention comes along with that, and we have lots of focus on retaining our team members as well. But understanding really that cycle of hiring and nurses, we recognize that recruiting internationally is a big component for us. So we project really how many nurses we'd like to bring each fiscal year, and then we engage in interviews with the PRS team to ensure that those nurses are the right nurses for our culture and our units that need them. And then we partner that with a large domestic, recruitment, lots of internet or lots of domestic recruitment Activities. I'm not going to get the words out. So,
Great.
goodness. We just had an internal recruitment fair yesterday where we had over 70 clinicians come and join us. And so we're still, we're partnering the domestic recruitment with international recruitment. And really, we know they're not coming for a period of time. So, international nurse recruiting is not a short term strategy, it is a play for long term stability. And that's really how we use it.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that you share. There are so many things you are all doing. I mean, we could have several different episodes of this for all of that. International is just one piece of the stability. And Amanda, one thing I get asked all the time from organizations who are just starting is like, how do you communicate this at the different levels to your board, to other
Yeah.
leaders, to the units? How
Yeah,
does
so we had a board meeting recently, and we talk about recruitment and retention at every board meeting. I mean, everybody's hospital board is invested in a stabilized workforce. And, lots of questions from our board about is this still, the right strategy? Coming out of COVID, we've seen a lot of stabilization of the workforce, which we're all happy about, right? Like we all want to have more consistent nurses in our organization. So that's really positive. But really, with a lot of challenges with immigration, our board asks good questions. And we really talk to them about the partnership with PRS, about, really the long term play here. It is not a short, stable, a stabilizing measure. If you need short stabilizing measures, you've got to do something else. You can onboard some experienced nurses if you can find them, but that's not really the answer. And so we talk openly about the strategy with our board, both the international strategy and the domestic strategy. And then, really, with our nursing staff, we focus on the importance of bringing experience to the bedside. One of the things that we really see with international nurses is that not only are they bringing years of service and years of experience in nursing, they're also bringing a lot of different perspectives from many other countries around the world and really bring that both to our patient population but to each other. And they're amazing teammates. I mean, we watch nurses who have been in 10 different countries or different units around the world, and they know how to be great teammates. And so that's something that is really impactful. And I think that brings a role model experience to our team, especially our new grads who really need that. They need that opportunity to see what it means to be a good teammate and how to do that. And I think that's part of what our international nurses bring. They also bring a lot of experience. So they've had leadership positions before, they've run charge in large units, they're preceptors and mentors. And that experience is part of also what we talk about, really capitalizing on all of the things they bring, not just the clinical components.
Yeah, I love that. And it sounds like you're very strategic with sharing with the board and different levels on the strategy and how this plays a part. And it is
Yeah.
definitely not the short term,
Yeah.
but it is a way to bring stability long term. So, Megan, you see this on the unit every day, and I'm sure you know what the strategy is and the different parts. So, how does that look on the units, and how do you look at staffing maybe differently with that strategy?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, regardless if it's international nurses or if it's our domestic nurses, that's something as a unit leader, you take that the staff retention and the support on the unit when it comes to making staffing decisions or making unit assignments. That's very important. So, with doing so, we want to ensure that we're very intentional when it comes to staffing. Do we have enough skill mix? Do we have enough experienced nurses with our novice nurses? Are there enough nurses that have a particular skill set to ensure that we have enough staff to provide care to all types of patients? So that's very intentional, not only from a safe skill level, but also from a supportive level. We want to ensure that if you're a new nurse on the unit, regardless if you have, years of experience or just new experience, we want to ensure that you have team members that you can reach out to. So that's one piece of it. The other piece is when we're making assignments, it's not just based on geographical like locations, like are all the rooms grouped together on the units, but we're looking at the acuity of it to ensure that these that the nurse has the skill set to care for this patient's acuity and also just to spread out the acuity as well. And then another piece is to ensure that we have support on the unit, whether it's the charge nurse who doesn't have an assignment or who has a lesser assignment. We want to ensure that they're available, that they're visible, and they're proactively rounding with the staff, regardless if it's an international nurse or a domestic nurse. And then in addition to that, leadership. So leadership here at Sinai, especially one of my main skill sets is that I'm very hands-on, very visible, along with many other leaders here at Sinai. We are on the floor constantly. We're rounding on the staff, especially our new staff, who, you know, a lot of times are international nurses, and providing that real-time coaching as well. And then we've also have a buddy system here too, which we found to be very successful to ensure that all of our nurses are able to get consistent breaks. So they'll able to coordinate break times with their buddy. And then also if a staff or a patient has a request, but the primary nurse is tied up, they can always then reach out to the buddy or the charge nurse to help with that patient need. So these are all just examples of common tactics that we do, not only on with our international nurses, but with all nurses here at Sinai.
Yep, that's great. So you really take the organization strategy and take it to the unit level.
Yes.
And thanks for giving us some examples on how that works. So Grace, I would love to bring you in at this time for healthcare leaders who are listening. You know, what did you bring? What do international nurses bring with their experience that you want to share and you want leaders to know?
Oh, based on my experience, I've been nursing for about total of 19 years now. So prior coming here in United States, I have my 17 years of my experience in Middle East. So it's so different, very far different from here to there. So as an international nurses, I could say that we have a earned experience from our previous organizations, and then we have shaped our high acuity of care, and mostly is we are very committed. Not only committed, we have a long-term commitment to our organization, and that's our international nurses is.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing kind of from your perspective what that looks like. And you know, with international recruitment is just the very beginning, and the real success comes from the integration, and that starts at the beginning. So I'd love to dive into kind of what does that look like at the beginning. Grace, let's start with you. I can imagine coming to the United States the first time, starting at a new organization. There's a lot going on. Maybe take us back to what is it like when you first arrived to Baltimore almost 3 years ago?
Oh, then we'll have a throwback now. So the of course I came here. I'm not for my in my side. I came now on the Middle East. So I travel a long journey. It takes me 24 hours in air to to landed here. I think we landed in Washington, and then so when I landed, we are three PRS babies that to come here, and same with Sinai, of course, same hospital, and we are from different countries. I came from Middle East, the other one from the Philippines, the other one is I think in United Kingdom. So and we have to meet each other, but prior for that, I'm very thankful that we have a Facebook group that we talk and we learn each other. And so, oh, when is your flight? So, oh, we have the same flight. So we talk each other, and then finally we have a plan prior coming here. And then, but if that's so, we have still. I'm so anxious that time because, okay, I'm landed to a different country, and how I'm supposed to do. And so when I see the banner, oh, it's a big relief, and oh my God, thanks God, I see my name on that banner, Grace Welcome, Grace Valiant, PRS Global. So is this a big relief for me? Okay, and then we landed, we meet each other, and then after that, one of the PRS team assigned to us, pick up in the airport, directed our 4-star, very comfortable hotel. I think that's already 11 p.m. in the night, so we're very exhausted. And then she said that, oh, the following day we have to wake up early. But in your side, you came very late, so I'll just take that at 11 p.m. That's our call for going to the Target to make sure everything is, packed up and everything we need is we make sure that we have it our hand. Okay. And then when we go back to Target, then we have plenty of time to pick up what we need, of course. And then they gave us a very exciting, and until now I have it, the rice cooker that's free from PRS. Because we're Filipino, we love rice, right? All of us have a rice cooker. And then from then on, the next day, we still came back to our hotel. And the following day, we make sure and they make sure that we are endorsed properly to our place to live in. That is a very, very special. And we felt that we're safe. Oh, this is your place, this is your apartment. And they didn't left us behind that we just throw back. No, we make sure that even step inside to our doorstep, the PRS staff is still there with us. So yeah, and here we are again. Oh, there's a long story, more story, but I think this was precious one, and I feel relieved. Even they will talk about the school of our kids. Yeah, the nearest groceries in town. So everything is just okay. You're good. So everything is we feel home in this 48 hours of our staying, and with the help and staff of the PRS. Yeah.
Uh, well, Grace, thank you for that. I'm going to go back and share with the team too about why that matters. But for our team, being there and supporting you is like our favorite thing that we do. And we think it's really important to make sure that you and families get settled in. So it's something that we won't change. And I would share just for organizations, if you don't have that service level, someone needs to do it. Because how important was that for you, Grace, to have
Yeah.
that support at the beginning? Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And Megan, at I loved how you were there for the welcome the last time I was there. But I can imagine even at the unit level, what does that look like when you have an international nurse just starting? And how do you look at the welcome and making sure that they feel like they're part of the team since this is direct hire and they're joining your team?
Yeah, we recognize that that's critical. We want to ensure that our international nurses, in addition to other nurses as well, feel welcome to the units. And we recognize that it's very scary for international nurses. I mean, they don't know anyone here. They left their friends and family back home, and many come alone without family. So we want to ensure that they feel right away that they feel welcome to on the unit. So even before, even before they actually come to Sinai, we have their email address. We connect with them, just say, welcome them to the unit, introduce them to leadership. And then upon hire, when they're here for their onboarding appointment with HR and OC Health, the leaders will actually go down and meet the international nurses, and we'll take a picture together, and we'll hold up a sign that says, welcome to Sinai. We love our international nurses. And then we bring them to the unit and give them a tour of the unit, in addition to introducing them with all staff. And then moving forward, we'll introduce them for the first week or so. We'll introduce them during shift huddles. So that way, both shifts can see and meet the new employee. And then we also introduce them in staff meetings as well.
So you make sure they know everyone and they feel
Yeah.
like they are
Yeah.
absolutely
Well,
part of
that's our
this
goal.
team.
Yeah. We want them
Yeah.
to be able to feel like they can go to anyone to ask questions or for help, not just their preceptor or their leaders, but any of their peers on the unit.
I love that. And Grace, I know it's been almost 3 years, but going back to that moment when you first came on and you started the orientation and the welcome, was there any small things or big things or what made you feel a sense of belonging and that you were part of that team?
Leaders are very visible.
Mhm.
Yeah. And they're very hands-on. So when my first day here in Sinai, we have an orientation leave off, and we met from the president of the Sinai to the lower, I could not say lower, part of the family of Sinai introduced themselves for us. And that's a big impact to us because, oh, wow, the president of Sinai is just here for us to introduce themselves. And And just to let them to know that, and even Miss Amy is a president. She is so um visible and very welcome. Even she's having a caring card every weekend with us. I love her, yeah. And then
We all love her.
yeah, I love her.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we love her. And so we have this Sinai also 101 specifically for international nurses. And it's very helpful for us for this one because in this in regards with the equipments, we have a different kind of equipments in Philippines and Middle East, but specifically here in Sinai, we have some equipments or some kind of procedures or protocols that talks about in the Sinai 101, specifically to the international nurses. You will never left behind here because everything they touch and whatever you need is in there, is almost there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So you felt a sense of belonging and a
Yes.
welcome just with
Yeah.
all the different love, like everybody at Sinai
Everybody. Mhm.
being available. That's great. And Amanda, I'll say one thing that I always notice at hospitals, right, is the leadership. When you can have the same type of caring heart leadership at every level, that's when you really make a difference. And you and Amy are a fantastic team. From
Yes,
from
we
For
joke that we
sure.
share a brain sometimes because we're both
yeah.
thinking the same thing. But I think, we both are deeply committed to stabilizing our workforce and really being able to build a strong workforce. And we've done a lot of stabilization over the last 2 years. A lot of that is credit to international nurses we've brought into key areas and the strategy around that. We've bolstered our emergency department, our neuroscience unit, and we're continuing to recruit. And I think that's very impactful. I think the other piece that, can't go unsaid is how important listening sessions are with team members, both domestic and international. But one of the pieces that we really heard early on from many of our international nurses were just about, that FaceTime and being able to ask questions, and not always questions about work, but questions about the schools or transportation options or, being flexible with their schedules. Because all of those things impact all of our lives. Like I have a 6-year-old, his kindergarten schedule impacts my ability of being at work on, certain times. And that's true for every nurse. Like we all have different things in our lives. And so it became really important to us that we open more listening sessions. And so we are now doing listening sessions at 90 days of employment. So we're meeting all of our international and domestic hires across the organization, not just nursing. Within the first 90 days, we're connecting back to them. As Grace said, they meet us at new employee orientation. We introduce ourselves. We let them know that we host listening sessions. And then, we follow up over and over again. So you see us rounding on units, you see us bringing the caring card. They also see us doing patient rounding and validating that our patients are receiving the highest level of care. And so I think it's that visibility that creates the connection, and that connection is what, builds that trust and that teamwork, and also, the loyalty. And I think that's something that we've seen over time.
Yeah. Share with us, your connection and all that you're doing there. I do want to know that you actually start this communication prior to them even arriving. And
Yeah.
over the last about 18 months to 2 years, we've seen more organizations doing a monthly town hall to be able to connect with the nurses, maybe go over some of the equipment. But it's a way to create a sense of belonging prior to them even arriving. So, Amanda, maybe you can share a little bit about the town hall that you guys are
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, we noticed there was an option to really start introducing our organization to our international nurses while they're waiting to come. So that time period between we've interviewed, you've accepted our offer, and now we're waiting for your priority date, or we're waiting for your paperwork, or we're waiting for something in the middle of that like amazing email that we get as leaders that say there's a flight booked. Like that's our favorite email. Yeah. So that time frame between like those pieces, we have set up town halls with PRS. We do it in collaboration where we introduce the organization. We are introducing the leaders, so the nursing directors, myself, some of the support services that we offer with our clinical coaches and our educators. We're introducing what it will feel like on orientation, so what that orientation process looks like, what resources they will have, and then we're introducing the opportunities that we want them to get involved in really early on. We have a robust professional governance structure at Sinai. Grace is an amazing part of that, and many of our international nurses are, because they bring the depth and the experience and the bedside leadership to really help us guide practice decisions and really empower their teammates to participate in that as well. And so we introduce those options really early. We also introduce our clinical ladder program, which our international nurses are immediately able to start being a part of. I think that is unique. I don't think a lot of organizations immediately offer that, but we consider our international nurses our direct hire. They are our direct hire, but we consider them part of our family from the first day they start here. And so they get all of the opportunities that we afford to any of our domestically hired team members. That includes nursing certification, as I mentioned, clinical ladder. We also have clinical advancement funds that are available for them to utilize to get specialized training or a specialized certification. And so we introduce all of those things early so that they understand that they're not just coming here to work a shift at the bedside, that they are truly part of our team and that we value them and we want them to continue growing with us. And so it's been really impactful. We've had great experiences. I actually had a nurse on the last call that we did. She's in the UK. Her question was, is it okay if I take a leadership role before I come to Sinai? I know I'm supposed to stay at the bedside, but I'm being offered this promotion and like, should I do it? And I was like, yeah, you should definitely, like, if that's what you want to do, we are here to support that. Like, I have no qualms about you going into a leadership role, and you're going to be at the bedside for us, but we always need leaders and we want you to grow as much as possible, and we're committed to that. And so it takes a long time for nurses to get to us. We know that's part of the process. We want nurses to feel like they are empowered to do whatever it is that they want to do before that, and then come and join our team and bring that breadth of experience to their new role here.
Yeah, I love that you actually impacted a nurse and were a mentor to somebody who hasn't even started yet
Yeah,
and in the process, but they're part of your team
they
already.
are.
And
Yeah.
to be able to, and I'll say just on the nurses side, and Grace, you can jump in on this too, but to be able to feel that while you're waiting, because there are nurses that their biggest concern is, are they going to drop us? Are they, will I still have a place? So to be able to connect, be able to answer questions and share is just really powerful. I love that you all are doing that. And for
Yeah.
any leader listening, I think that's like a must do. And it absolutely, we've seen that it's been directly impacting retention as well. So that's fantastic. All right. So, Megan, the other question I always get asked is, how do you do the orientation? Do you treat them like new grads? Do you just put them in regular orientation? Um, I would love for you to, how does the orientation for international go on the unit?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So orientation for our international nurses, it actually aligns with orientation with domestic nurses. So we have recently transitioned to a new type of orientation, and Amanda can probably highlight that a little bit more in depth. It's called TSAM. It's called talent skills acquisition model. So it's a tiered competency model. So instead of traditional orientation where it's more, it's based on like a time frame. You start with one patient, gradually move up to two patients. With TSAM, you actually start out with five patients, and then it's based on competencies. You'll start out with basic stuff such as assessments, and then as you meet those competencies, then you'll progress through that tier and you'll do a little bit more with your patients until you meet the fourth tier, which is the highest tier where you're doing everything and you're really utilizing that critical critical thinking skills. So we felt that that's been very, very successful. It's not tied to an actual time frame. So again, it depends on how fast those nurses are progressing, meeting those tiers and progressing through the tier, the TCM model. In addition to that, we ensure that, not their orientation is very thorough. It's very supportive. We have our nurses, obviously you're assigned, with a primary and alternate preceptor for continuity and consistency. But in addition to that, you're also being closely followed by unit leadership in addition to a clinical coach. And we'll check in with these, with the orientee and the preceptor regularly, pretty much on a weekly basis, in addition to having formal meetings the beginning, middle, and the end of their orientation. And then, as what Grace had said, we also have a Sinai 101 for our international nurses. This is specific to our international nurses, and they'll have that weekly where they'll spend, it's 4 hours every Monday, and they'll spend time with the educators here at Sinai. And again, they'll go over different equipment, different policies and procedures here, and even go over different like medical terminologies that's more specific for the US comparative outside of the US. So we, all in all, we find it very successful and very, very supportive.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing just the approach. And Amanda, it sounds like your unit managers have it. They
They
are on
figured it
it.
out. I think
Yeah,
we
yeah.
transitioned to TSAM when we onboarded 50 international nurses in the ED, and we wanted to capitalize on the evidence that really showed that experienced nurses need different orientation, and we need to be able to build their orientation around their competencies. As Grace shared, she's a nurse of 19 years. She had 16 years of experience when she got to us. And so Grace definitely knows how to do a patient assessment. She knows how to give meds. She knows how to run a plan of care for a patient. What she doesn't know is our version of Cerner, our IV pump. She doesn't know how rounds happen on our units. And so we we modified that orientation based on a lot of the feedback that we could do a better job. So we went out to the literature. We learned that other organizations were using TSAM to orient new grads and experienced nurses. And we implemented that in our emergency department about a year and a half ago, and we onboarded 50 nurses very quickly. And what we really saw is that they were the ramp up to them being, in fully productive, independent roles was much quicker. And also, they felt much more competent and confident in their skills because they were taking full loads from the beginning. Because a lot of times, like nurses will tell us, and new grads will tell me too, like, I was so intimidated to move from one nurse or one patient to three patients, or, one patient to a four patient assignment. And how am I going to do all these things? Well, with your TSAM, it's so gradual that you're able to like really get that feel. And I think we've gotten so much of that feedback directly from nurses like Grace, where we were able to really take a look at our orientation models and move to something that worked better for everybody, better for us as leaders, with maybe some less time on orientation, because CNOs think about that a lot. And then, also for nurses to feel more confident in, being able to take those patients. And certainly I know Grace had a, different experience with orientation. We weren't doing TSAM back then. So I'd love to hear, Grace, your perspective on like what you see as a difference, before, and then what you see as a preceptor now.
Oh, way back in my time, we are just using our file book. We have this book, and we make sure that we have to check on that. It's very organic thing as well. Before we have the assessment, IV insertion, and all those stuffs, and then we just really back to basic to compare with the TSAM. And I see that those are new orientee, they just move so fast. Yeah, because I can do that. I already did that, and they have the more confidence to themselves to to enjoy their work because we've already done that before. You just have some a little bit polish on these things, but they doing great things and they doing a great job with this orientation. And I myself during that time, my time, I'm gonna share for you a little bit moment that my preceptor make sure that our clinical educators fit in our personality, so we can be jive together, and we have a rapport together, and at the end we make friends for our preceptor. And as at our orientee, we'll make some, we're very much not only be confident, but one day, the time that they will be go by ourselves, we are make sure that, oh, I can do that, because our preceptors always be there to us and help us and guide us always, even though in the last 2 weeks that we have to go on with ourselves, still our preceptor is still there. And not only the preceptor, around the community, around the organization, you can ask them any questions. Yeah.
Yeah, which has to be amazing that you feel confident and comfortable asking anybody a question, even if Amanda is walking by.
Yes.
I see Grace every
He is
day.
I know.
always
I remember
visible,
that.
always.
I'm
I
I'm
Hi,
remember
so
hi,
that.
biased
friend.
about B6. Megan and I joke about it all the time that I'm like, do you think people know it's my favorite unit? And Megan's like, yes, everybody knows.
Everybody.
Like
Well,
they
now you
don't.
just put it out there too.
I know. It's, the nurses on B6 are amazing. I get to do patient rounds a couple times a week, and I think it is my most fun thing that I get to do. But I get to hear about the amazing nurses. This morning I heard about Jill, who is one of our international nurses. I rounded on one of her patients last night, or Jill was her nurse last night, and she was like, she was so kind, and she, elevated my concern about my pain, and she really took great care of me. And, those are the things that I love. So being able to round on patients is so great. And we frequently hear that feedback, both about our domestic nurses and our international nurses. But I think it's just, the one thing that I want for other nurse leaders is to really engage at the bedside and understand the impact that all nurses are having on the clinical care. But I think there is a special impact that our international nurses bring, and it really is based on their experience and, the compassion and empathy that they bring to being, from being in so many different situations and taking care of different types of patient populations. And I think it's really special, and it's something that we really value here at Sinai.
Yeah, I love that. And I appreciate you sharing about the onboarding because that is, probably my number one question that I get asked. And I think, many organizations started where just put them in new grads. And you're right, experienced nurses are different. And there's a few areas like the EMR, and understanding that and learning that, and then the equipment. So you guys have kind of carved out additional training on that, but kept moving along with the onboarding, and training as an experienced nurse. So thank you for sharing that. So, one of the things that I think is probably the most rewarding for me is to hear stories of nurses after 3 years that are staying there because it's such a good fit and because of the focus that an organization gives on integration. I can't stress that enough. And retention is so important, not only for international, but for any nurse that we have. I mean, that's a lot of your stability, I'm sure, that is happening right now. And so, Megan, once a nurse comes to the unit and gets settled in, and what have you seen for retention and engagement over time?
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good question. Well, obviously, from the beginning, you want to ensure that they feel welcome within the units, that they feel supported. But in addition to that, you want to ensure that they're engaged. You want them to be, we want to ensure that they feel valued and that they're a part of decision making on the unit. And part of that is to get them involved in perhaps different committees or different unit activities and just to kind of leverage whatever background that they have as well. Many of our international nurses, we find they have copious years of experience, many of which were running charge or were on different committees or were a part of different types of projects within their previous work experience, and finding out what is their niche, what is that they like, what is it that they've done before, and we can leverage that and perhaps have them maybe be a part of a project on the unit, or maybe start off with doing audits on the unit just to get them more familiar in terms of looking at whatever best practices there are and providing coaching to their peers, and slowly just getting them involved and ensuring that, encourage them to be a part of the clinical ladder. That's a huge hit, finding how easy it is, that it's obtainable to get your, I'm not saying it's easy, you have to put some work into it, but it is obtainable to advance in a clinical
Yeah.
ladder. And once you actually sit down and explain, look at all these ways. It's not just based on your clinical experience, but it's also based on how engaged you are within the organization and also within the community as well. Many of our international nurses and also other nurses as well are involved with some community activities, that Sinai is also involved with, such as the Baltimore Hunger Project and other community events like building playgrounds. And you'll be surprised at how many nurses and especially from our international nurses attend those events. So biggest piece, yeah, is engagement, getting them involved with the unit, with the hospital. And Grace is a big example of that as well. She's advanced in the clinical ladder. She's one of our strongest charge nurses on the unit. She's a preceptor. She's the representative, one of the reps for the Sinai Nursing Congress. She's a member of the B6 Professional Shared Governance Committee. So that's just an example of one employee, but there's many other of our international nurses that are also as invested as Grace is.
Yeah, I love that. Grace, what has you stay at Sinai?
Oh.
Grace is never allowed to leave.
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
my
Well,
God.
that's one answer,
That's
Amanda.
that's
Moving on to the next question.
Yeah, I mean
next
there's
question.
nothing out. No, I'm kidding.
That's
Grace,
my
please tell
answer.
us. But
No,
also,
I'm not
like, I
allowed.
would be, oh,
Not
I can't
allowed.
even think about it.
Thank you so much, Miss Amanda. I appreciate that. Really. Yeah, just a big heart. We're friends everywhere. She's following me in Facebook and and likewise.
Yes, I watched Grace's daughter. She's amazing. They look
Uh,
so much alike as well, but like Grace's daughter is just like the most beautiful.
Oh,
So
thank
I'm
you.
very grateful to have Grace here.
that's
Okay.
awesome. But,
Yeah.
but and Grace, I mean, clearly you are loved, and that's probably a big reason. Is there anything else that you're like, this is why I'm staying here, and this is why it was such a good match?
Um, I'm just working here in Sinai, but I'm growing here.
Ah,
Professionally, yes. I had my clinical ladder. I'm so engaged. I don't know. This is my passion. As a nurse, it's my passion and engagement to all the leadership. I include myself. I make sure that I'm actively working on those things with the help of my leadership. Of course, always Megan is there, and always I'm asking questions and advice. And she's always with me. And what can I do this? Okay, maybe you can have this one, and she is always open to that, and not only me, to everybody. And then Sinai is investing to us, not only international specialists, all those domestics, for our clinical ladders, professional growth, as both my leaders saying that I'm already have my, I think, 12 courses of charge nurses. I
Mhm.
passed all those that's clinical ladders, and I have a big opportunity that as an SNC acute representative that I attended the ANOL, the American Organization of Nursing Leaders in San Antonio, Texas. Yeah. So I'm very happy, and I have big privilege when I receive an email. Oh my God, I'm just 2 years here in Sinai, and I'm participating this big organization in United States, and I'm happy to uh, share what I've learned to the all leaders of the Sinai community, and a good feedback about what I've said to them. And so I'm so blessed, and I think I cried that time. Yeah, I cried that time. Yes, really, I am. And then this is the place to grow and contribute, and I feel like home. That's it.
I can definitely tell that, Grace, and I love that. And what I love the most is you came on a contract, right? But you're
Yes.
not staying because of the contract. You're staying because of all these other things. And I hear a lot about growth. And Amanda, I heard you earlier talking about that. That's a, a significant part of your retention plan for all
Yes.
nurses, all team members. And I know you recently had a reunion for your international nurses and some
Yeah.
of them over 20 years. Is that
Yeah.
growth part, is that a big part of why most of them are staying?
I think so. I mean, I think there's lots of reasons that people stay. I think we have a great community of international nurses here where, outside of work, they are each other's family and they're our family. I mean, I think Grace and I follow each other on social media and I feel like I am seeing her daughter grow up and, I'm sharing my family. And I think that's not unique to the international strategy at Sinai. I think that is unique to who we are as an organization. I came here over 10 years ago looking for a professional home, looking for a place to grow. And I've been given a lot of opportunity here to do that. And I think that I feel like this is my home. And I want every nurse to feel like this is also their home and their home is my home. And I think that is part of our culture. I think that's who we are as Sinai. We have a lot of people who've been here for a long time, like Megan and many of our other leaders. But we have some original, we call them OG international nurses who came in the early 2000s, 2002 to 2009. And we still have about 100, maybe 110 of those nurses who work in our organization. They, contribute in a lot of different ways. They may still be at the front line, which is amazing, and really working at the bedside as mentors and as preceptors and as charge nurses. And when I think about the number of nurses that they have raised over the 20 years in our organization, I am in awe of that. And really, I think that excellence is, built there, built in that tenure. And I think that's part of our culture here. But we also have nurses who have progressed in leadership roles. Renilda Tejones is an international nurse from one of our first groups who is our executive director of procedural and perioperative services. And, Renilda exudes professionalism. And I think, she brings a wealth of experience from the Philippines. When she first got here, she was a clinical instructor in the Philippines. She was an OR nurse. She came here and has done progressive leadership roles. She was a team lead, an assistant manager. She was a charge nurse in the OR, an interim manager, and then an educator. And she is now the director. And I think that experience is also something that, is not unique to Sinai. I know that other organizations promote from within. I think it is part of our culture to really always give the first look to our nurses who are contributing so much. And I think that is unique to what happens here. And the opportunity to grow in those roles and really understand that exists for everyone. And as Grace said, we give lots of opportunities. We launched a charge nurse professional development pathway in the last year and a half. That's been really important. We've always done a charge nurse workshop. But how do you build really good charge nurses and how do you sustain them and how do you keep them engaged and growing as a charge nurse? That was really our charge. And so we built out a 12 class curriculum that they go through over 18 months. And it's really like a learn at your own pace opportunity. And that has been wildly successful. We've had many international nurses and domestic nurses go through it. But I think it's this opportunity to understand what's at that next level beyond charge nurse, where, what is that opportunity for leadership? How can I lead at the charge nurse level? And then also, if I'm looking at that next level, what opportunities exist for me to understand skills or tools and resources that I need to be able to go into an assistant nurse manager role. And, I think that's what we want to build. We want to build the opportunity to do whatever it is you want to do next, but do it with us.
Yeah, I love that. Well, this conversation has been amazing. I would love for you to, before we end, for each of you to share if you had one piece of advice for a leader who is just starting this program at their organization, what would it be? And Grace, I would love for you to start. what would you say to a leader who's just starting this program as advice?
Well, as an international nurses, don't hesitate to hire an international nurses, which is very well experienced and they can bring you the best of their most to your organizations. And we're here to help you and to build a community so that we have a common goal. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Grace. How about you, Megan?
Yeah. Again, I would, strongly focus on welcoming these international nurses to your unit. Be mindful that this is very scary for them. So to ensure that they have the support not only from you, but from their peers is critical. Checking in on them routinely, even after orientation, you still want to check in on them, not only to ensure that everything is going well here, but also to check in about home life as well and to see if there's anything that you can do on our end to help facilitate that. We also have a program here as well where international nurses can sign up, and the goal is to find a mentor for them from a area like from a similar cultural background that perhaps can be a mentor with them that can help kind of move through this transition as well. So yeah, that's what I would recommend.
I love that. And I love that you added in also ask them about things outside of work on
Yeah.
how they're transitioning. Because at the end of the day, we want them all thriving within their communities outside of work as well. Megan, what advice would you give?
Oh, I think you meant me, but that's okay.
Oh,
Oh,
Amanda,
that's okay. I was like, Megan just
sorry.
went. No, no. Oh, good.
Go back to
I
her.
would say, from a C-suite perspective, I would say that I hear other nurse leaders saying it takes so long to get an international nurse. And I think that is one of the hesitations around really, building an international nurse program. And I think that I would say start now. The other best time to start was like 2 years ago, but now is a great time. So I would definitely say that. And then I would also really just focus on leveraging those listening sessions and being available to understand what tools and resources both the frontline international nurses need and our leaders. Like, we've pivoted along the way. This is not a destination, it's a journey. And so being able to pivot and make changes and give tools and resources that both our leaders and our international nurses need, that happens when we're listening and when we're actively engaged in seeking that feedback. And I think that is really important in building out an international program. It's really understanding that it's not going to be cookie cutter, that different nurses are going to need different things, and that we've got to build in the ability to be flexible and adaptable to meet those needs so that we can retain those team members. Like, every nurse wants to stay in a place where they feel like they are treated as an individual and they are cared for and that they are recognized for their meaningful work. And in order to do that, it's got to be more individualized. So, really ensuring that you've built out structures in your organization that you can leverage to get the tools to the people who need them.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And, I think if everybody who's listening, if you take away one thing, it's really how important the integration piece is and looking at your current programs around retention and onboarding and all of that. And how does that fit in with experienced nurses that just happen to come from another country? Because at the end of the day, and I heard this a lot today, you're building teams and you're preparing for the future to make sure that your teams are taken care of. And the other thing that I would add is there's so many organizations like Sinai who have learned with doing international and have best practices. And so that's one thing that we love to share is what others are doing. And we often connect people with different organizations based on what they're looking for with the best practice. I can't thank our clients enough. And certainly LifeBridge Healthcare has been just a fantastic partner to work with. When you have two organizations who see things very similarly and have the same goal that individuals thrive once they get here, it's really amazing. So on behalf of PRS, thank you all for everything that you do every day. And Grace, I thought it was so neat to have your perspective here
Thank
to
you.
share. So I appreciate you taking the time today as well. So, with that, thank you everybody for joining today. And if you're not already following Amanda on LinkedIn, I would do that. She has all kinds of cool things that she shares. So, thanks again, everybody, for joining.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You.